Have you ever been hard at something, giving it your all? You've been digging in, you've been doing it, you've been having some success. And then after a while, it starts to wane. The excitement goes away. Or maybe something happened in the process that set you off, that got you off track, that really put a lump, a hump, a bump, an obstacle in your way. And now you're finding it difficult to get back on track. That's what we're talking about tonight. In the process of reversing our diabetes. Hey, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. If you're new to me, that's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you. I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes, who want to get off of their medication, in fact, who want to put their diabetes in remission. I'm so excited that you are here. I'm glad that you're in this space. That's what we do. If you're new, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music and let you know that we are excited that you are here. If you're new, or even if you are one of our regulars, if you have questions, go ahead and put those in the chat. Put a Q in front of them because we'd love to get to you and answer those as we move through the rest of the evening. I am now just shy of, of 48 hours. Just shy of 48 hours. Right now we're about 46 hours, y'all. 45 and a half hours into my fast, into this 72-hour fast that we're doing here on this week. As you know, if you've been following us, we're using fasting. I'm using fasting as that amazing tool that helps to reverse diabetes, and it has all the benefits. We'll talk to those here in just a little bit. But if you've not been watching, if you've not been following, make sure you get over and watch one of our playlists. We have one that's called How to Fast Successfully that goes through all of the things that we've been doing. And as we do here on the channel, I've got my monitors. So I've got my monitors over here we're going to take a look at in just a minute. And right below me, you see that right there. That is my Dexcom Clarity app, which we'll take a look at in just a little while. I do want to hop over and say hello. I do see one of our community members out there. I see Steve. Hey, Steve, how you doing? Welcome, man. Glad that you are here. And for those of you who may be on Instagram or Twitch or LinkedIn or Facebook, welcome to you as well. Glad that you are here hanging out with us in this space. As I said, 48 hours coming up here pretty soon in this week's fast. We're heading to 72 hours in just a little while. We'll be moving into that section. Make sure you join us as we do our review of fasting tomorrow, and then of course catch us for this week in review on Sunday morning at 6 a.m. Central right here on Dwain Woode MD. So let's hop over, and as you know, I always try to do a check-in for fasting. All right, so fasting is what we're talking about tonight. And I want to do a check-in because this is where people find that they will have issues, have some trouble. And there are three phases of the check-in. There are three components that I want to talk about. They are how I'm doing physically, how I'm doing mentally, and how I'm doing emotionally. Because remember, fasting is not just about the physical. It's also a mental and emotional, which we'll address a little bit again as we talk through our discussion for tonight. So physically, how am I feeling? And physically, I'll tell you what the main issue is that a lot of people will talk about when it comes to physical, and then talk about how I'm feeling. And so the main thing that people will talk about in terms of the physical is their energy level. Right? How are they feeling? How are they feeling tired? Are they feeling fatigued? That's the big one. And that often comes as we're making that transition between burning carbohydrates and burning ketones. Remember, that was one of the big things, one of the big reasons why we are using fasting as one of our tools, because we get to that fat burning. And during that fat burning, sometimes people will feel a dip in their energy. The other things that people will feel in terms of physical, lightheadedness, dizziness, sweatiness, and then of course palpitations, feeling like the heart's racing or skipping a beat. All of those sometimes will have to do with blood sugar, particularly if someone is diabetic. As the blood sugar goes down, they may feel that as lightheadedness, dizziness, sweatiness, palpitations, like the heart's racing, skipping a beat. The other thing that happens there is that someone may be dehydrated. And remember, when you're dehydrated, as your as the volume in your body goes down, the heart still has to pump the same amount of oxygen. Your tissues still need the same amount of oxygen. So in order to keep fulfilling that requirement, the heart has to speed up, because for each component, each quantity of blood can't carry the same amount, because, right, you're dehydrated. And so the heart has to speed up to deliver to the body, to the rest of the organs, all the oxygen that it needs. And so that's why you will feel that as palpitations. And like I said, particularly as people are dehydrated. I am actually feeling pretty energetic. I'm not feeling tired. I'm not feeling lightheaded. I'm not feeling dizzy. I'm not feeling palpitations. Part of that is because I have been particularly careful this week, coming out of last week into this week, as I've been getting into this fast, and I've gone back to doing some different hydration as I was doing at the beginning, right? So I'd gotten away from that and was trying to use some other things to hydrate, and it wasn't quite working. So I've kind of gone back to what I was doing before. But right now, not feeling lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty, all those things that we talk about in terms of physical. And then mental. Remember, if the mind is not where it should be, then everything else kind of falls apart. Okay. And in terms of the mental places or things that people will feel here is sluggishness. They feel like they're in a fog, in a daze, right? And once again, that can also come as we're making that transition between burning carbohydrates and burning ketones. Also, it can come if someone is particularly fatigued, right? So when you're tired, you're not at your best. It also comes if somebody's dehydrated. So remember, those two things, those two components, so resting and hydration plays a big part in this whole process. I am not feeling sluggish. I'm not feeling foggy. I don't feel like I'm in a daze, okay? That all, once again, comes as a result of doing a good job, I think, of getting into this fast. And then the final component is emotional. We talk about that roller coaster, right? So the roller coaster of emotions are so strong, they can be so strong that they can derail us in our process of fasting, in our process of being metabolically active, in our process of making choices to set ourselves up for success. So emotionally, right, all of the things. So feeling anxiety, feeling worry, feeling depression, lonely, tired, bored, all of those emotions, if they're not kept in check, can derail our process. Okay, and so in this process, we want to make sure that we're doing a good job of managing all of those as we move into the space. Yep. So physically, mentally, and emotionally, you see those there. Very excited that I am not right now feeling any physical stuff. I'm not feeling sluggish, not feeling dull. And because I'm excited about a trip that my family and I are taking care of, getting ready to go on, I'm elated. I am just excited. Okay, so that's how I'm feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally. And then now let's hop over and let's take a look at some of my my numbers, right? So let's take a look at some of my numbers and what I'm looking at. So right here, I have my meters, and you'll see on the screen that is my Dexcom that you see. Let's do this. Let's look at the Dexcom, and you see right now my blood sugar is 100 as we are approaching 48 hours, just a couple hours away from that. Blood sugar is 100, and you'll see down at the bottom that's the tracing, that's the graph, and you don't have the numbers on there, and that's a 12-hour graph. Let me see if I can go to 24-hour or maybe a 6-hour. Okay, and we'll take a closer look at this as we look at my actual report. But this is what the Dexcom Clarity, Dexcom is saying right now. And if I click over here, you'll see now this is my Libre. And so the Libre says that my blood sugar is now 82, right? Blood sugar is now 82. Okay. And then let's hop over, and I want to take a look at my monitors, which you'll see here, and I have a Keto Mojo, which will give me blood sugar and ketones, and then I have a not freestyle, but I have a Contour, which gives me blood sugar. So let's go ahead now and let's get a strip out of, this is for the Contour. Let's get a strip in there. There we are. Oops. And then I'm going to start with the blood sugar for the Keto Mojo, and then we'll come back and do the test, the ketone in a minute. So what do you think my ketones are going to be? All right, so right now, 46 hours. Okay. What do you think my ketones are going to be? So there is my Keto Mojo, Contour, and then back to our bin with our little Lancets. Let's grab a couple of those out. And so these, let's see, let's do this one. Yeah, how about this? Okay, so here's some Lancets, and these Lancets are, let me see if I have a different, oh, here's I have a different color one, and then I have a totally different type of Lancet. Let's do that. Okay, so these Lancets, these are single-use Lancets, and you probably can't get a good sense of the colors, but this one is a purple with a white top, and this one is a white with a purple top. Okay, so those are two Lancets, and they're typically, or these work the same. And then this one is a Lancet that you have to put into a lancing device. And I'll, at some point, maybe get one of those on here so we can take a look at that together. Okay? All right. But right now, I'm going to get rid of this guy and just choose one of these. Put this one over to the side. And so basically, I screw this top part off. And it's spring-loaded so that when I press the lever that's right here, it will pop out and it will give me a stick in my finger, and then we'll get some blood, a drop of blood. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to put this up so you can actually see and hear. Boom. Hopefully you heard that. And let's see if we got a good drop of blood. Okay, yeah, there we go. So there's my drop. We'll start with this guy. Okay, and then let's get one over to the Contour. And so 83 is what the Contour says, or the Keto Mojo says I am. And let me move this down a little bit to get rid of that glare. And then 82. So that's pretty close. And then on the screen, you'll see that my my Libre says 80. Okay, my Libre says 80. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to take this out because I want to get my strip in for the ketones before this this blood dries. Let's go ahead and pop that out. Get that in there. And so once again, what do you think is going to be? That's my ketone, right? What do you think my ketones are going to be? Go ahead and drop that in there. Let me know what you think it is. Okay. And of course, like I always do, I'm not going to let you guys see that. There you are. And then I'm going to take that off the screen, so because sometimes I go back to that, and then you guys get to see it. All right. So so we'll come back and we'll talk more about where I am in terms of ketones and so forth. But let's go ahead and let's have a conversation, and the conversation that we want to talk about is getting back on track. So back on track. In the course of what we've been doing, we've been talking about improving our metabolic health. That's what we're doing. And diabetes is the prototypic. It is the end-all, be-all of metabolic diseases. Okay? And a lot of things that happen in the body, a lot of disease processes, a lot of conditions, a lot of complications that we have fall along the spectrum of diabetes. And when I say fall along the spectrum of diabetes, they have similar results, they have similar complications, and they can be treated in similar ways, which is why right now we talk about managing diabetes or reversing diabetes, right? So that's the word that we're using, reversing diabetes. But remember, all of the metabolic diseases along that spectrum can be improved with the same process, right? So this new year process that we've been talking, that this trek that we've been on, all of those processes that we're learning, all the tools that we're learning, this fasting that we're talking about even right now, that all can be applied and will work to improve metabolic diseases. So even though diabetes is the prototypic one, it can be extrapolated, or the things we do can be extrapolated to others. Okay? All right. So we talked, and we've been walking through the process of learning several tools. If you remember, one of the tools we learned was we figured out what our why was. We figured out, how fasting. Well, so we've been talking about fasting, how to fast successfully. We've been talking about the HEAT model, habits, emotions, access, and taste. And those are the things that push us in a direction. Those are the triggers that take us off of our eating plan, our meal plan, our desire to succeed metabolically, right? The HEAT model gives us all those triggers. We talked about being emotionally intelligent. And when we talk about emotional intelligence, being mindful comes in right there. Because if I'm emotionally intelligent, I have to be mindful. I have to know where I am. I've got to know what I'm feeling, what others around me are feeling. That's the emotional intelligence. And being able to use that for my benefit, right? Definition of emotional intelligence. And then we learned about how to adjust medication. So there are all these things that we're learning, even some of the challenges that we've had as we've moved through the process, right? So figuring out how to construct a meal, learning and finding someone to mentor, getting our blood work checked, all of the things that we've been walking through, that we've been doing in this new year process, and you have been hitting it hard. You've been grinding. You've been doing the things that you needed to do to get you in a space that sets you up for success, right? Because remember, we're talking about unlimited potential. And you're going along, and you're having some success, and something happens. I don't know about you, but yeah, life happens. Life gets in the way. Or you became ill. Or you messed up once, and it's been 2 months ago, a month ago, last week, and you're still in the process of trying to get back in the saddle, and it hasn't quite worked yet. And the question is always, why do people find it so difficult to get back on track? Why is it so hard? We did it once. We were successful. In fact, if you believe the statistics, that over the course of a year, a large portion of us, a large percentage of us, attempt 1 to 2 diets, right? We change our meal plan. We change the things that we're eating. We start exercising. We get a treadmill. We join, whatever the local gym is. And then it falls away, and we never get back on track. And so the question that we want to answer is, why do people struggle with getting back on track when they, quote unquote, fall off track? And we want to talk about several things, but number one is perfectionism. And it's a perfectionist mindset. People believe that if they can't do it perfectly, it's not worth doing at all. Yeah. So I can't tell you the number of times that I've had someone in the office, and it happens for a lot of different things. And I've said to them, okay, this is what we're going to do. And they go away And for some reason, a component of the things we talk about is not doable. So we say, hey, we're going to get up in the morning, we're going to exercise. Let's say we put a plan together. We're going to exercise, we're going to, change our diet. So these are the things that we're going to eat. And, on Monday you're going to do this, on Tuesday you're going to do this, on Wednesday you're going to, anyway, we come up with a plan. And then on Wednesday, for some reason, they're unable to do something, then they scrap the entire plan. Or they were going along. Sunday was great, Monday was great, Tuesday was great, and then Wednesday morning, they overslept. And they're like, oh, this doesn't work. Because they can't do it perfectly, they say, okay, it's not worth doing at all. But this all or nothing mentality makes it hard to recover from setbacks. Because in life, there are very rarely things that are perfect. In fact, well, I was going to say never, but very rarely are things perfect. And if we're waiting for everything to be perfect to get back on track, then we're waiting for a long time. And so people find themselves months, weeks, sometimes years later where they haven't recovered because of something that happened back then, and they're thinking, okay, I've got to do this perfectly, and if I don't have the perfect situation, I can't do it. One of the things that you'll hear me begin saying is that done is better than complete. Sorry, done is better than perfect. I was going to say complete is better than perfect, right? Having something completed, having something done is better than having it perfect. The same idea for those of you who are out there who may be in the content creator world, or you're a musician, or you have a business idea, or you have whatever the idea is that's in you that you're trying to refine until it's perfect. While you're waiting for it to be perfect, it's not out in the world. Right? So perfectionist, the perfectionist mindset. That's one of the reasons that people find it difficult to get back on track. Number 2 is guilt and shame. Yeah, this is a big one. Guilt and shame. So feelings of guilt and shame about measuring up can lead us to self-sabotage. So guilt and shame. This is why I often say to people, if we're going to fast and we have, say, social functions that are going on, there's whatever's going on in the family, make a decision prior to the event. Either I'm going to or I'm not going to. Because if you make the decision in the middle of the event and you decide that you're going to get off your plan, get off your eating plan, you're going to stop fasting, there's going to be guilt, there's going to be shame. I didn't measure up. What's wrong with me? I'm not good enough. So all of those negative things that come into our mind, and they derail us and they keep us in this victim mentality, this victim attitude, and it takes a while to break through that to get back on track. So guilt and shame. So instead of motivating us to improve, these emotions often demotivate us. They make us feel unworthy. They make us feel like we don't deserve it. And it stops us from continuing. So guilt and shame. The other reason people don't get back on track is because of they have a fear of failure. Right? Fear of failure. The fear of failing, again, because we just said a lot of people, a couple times a year, they try fasting, they try, Mediterranean, they try keto, they try low carb, they try weight loss, they've been on Weight Watchers, they've been on whatever it is, and it didn't work. And this time they say, okay, I'm doing it, and they got there and they started moving, and something happens and it derails them. There's a bump in the road. And they get off track, and now there's the fear of failing again because they remember the last time. Remember, there are 3 fear responses. We always talk about the fight, right? Get in there, you dig in, and you start fighting. or flight, which is you run away. But there's a third one, and it's called freeze. Fear can cause fighting, flighting, running, and it can cause you to freeze. So this can be the paralysis that takes you away from being able to take action, right? So people might avoid altogether trying even simple things to get back on track because they are just so anxious, right? They're afraid of repeating that same thing again, and so they don't even try. So fear of failure is another one. And that's huge. Remember, we are anxious about the future. We worry about the present. And we're depressed about the past. So we fear where we are. What's going to happen? Or this situation is not working. I should say what's going to happen. This situation is not working the way I want. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future. And so they don't get back on track because they fear that that's going to happen. The other reason is lack of a clear plan. If you're going to succeed, you got to have a plan. Recently, we did goals, setting goals, SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, right? Relevant and time-bound. SMART goals. We succeed when there's a structure. We succeed when there's a plan. We succeed when we have a way of getting there. So without a specific plan to follow after a setback, it's easy to become fearful. It's easy to become overwhelmed, and people often don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. They've lost some ground, they feel, and they don't know how to get back there. Okay, so we'll come back. We'll talk about some of these in a minute, right? So lack of a clear plan. The next one is negative self-talk, right? This goes back to some of the others, right? So harsh self-criticism can erode motivation. If someone is constantly telling themselves they can't do it, you're going to fail, here we go again, this is just like us. It's hard to summon energy. It's hard to dig in and find the motivation to get going, to try again. Because I failed this last time. I remember what this was like. I remember how that felt. I'm no good anyway. I'm not going to succeed anyway. And so there's no reason to try. Right? So negative self-talk. And then loss of momentum. Loss of momentum. So some people feel that because they have had a setback, right, the momentum, the strides, they've been going at a good clip. As a matter of fact, I was listening to someone today talking about their health journey. And they were trying to figure out when to exercise, right? And one of the comments they made, well, I don't want to do it on this day because if I do it this day, I usually have something else going on. And then if I miss it, then it's going to throw me off. Right? So people feel like they've lost momentum. After a slip up, right? The loss of progress can be devastating and it can be demoralizing. And it's easy to say, hey, I've lost some ground. I'm going to just hang out for a while. I'm going to get my bearings back, and then I'll start later. So the momentum that was driving us to succeed has been slowed, and it's hard to restart, right? Because there's that energy that was going through there. The other reason people don't get back on track is that they have unrealistic expectations. Setting goals that are ambitious and unrealistic, or over-ambitious and unrealistic, can lead to frustration. I just mentioned setting SMART goals, right? Are they specific? Are they measurable? Are they achievable? Can it be done? Right? Now there's a place for pushing yourself, for extending yourself. Right? That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about unrealistic expectations. And so when we don't meet unrealistic expectations, then we get frustrated. Remember, frustration is the result of unrealized expectations. Not necessarily unrealistic, but unrealized expectations. So I have an expectation that's not met, and so become frustrated. So if you're setting yourself up for to know that this thing that you want to do is not doable, then you're setting yourself up for success. And so people expect in the health field, we expect in the wellness area, we expect in our metabolic disease, we expect perfection, back to the very first one. And so we're setting unrealistic expectations. There are going to be times when you get off track. I don't even have to know you, but I'm telling you, there's going to be a time when you get off track, that something is not going to work the way you expect it. And if you expect it to be perfect all the time, then you're setting yourself up for failure. Well, you're setting yourself up for frustration when the setback occurs. And you may feel, I may feel, that getting back on track is impossible, right? Because the bar is up here and my expectations is already too high. The next one is one that's really, really dear to me, and that is lack of support. Lack of support. You know, here we talk about educating, empowering, and encouraging, and that encouragement comes with the support. So without a support system, it's challenging to regain focus, regain momentum after you make a mistake, after you falter, after you get off track. So friends and family and the community can give you encouragement, can give you accountability, they can give you support. And all of that is critical for success. You've often heard me say, if you want to go somewhere, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, if you want to be successful, if you want to achieve, take people with you. Because the community is amazing in its ability to put wind in your sails, wind beneath your wings when you are faltering. So lack of support. And then habitual patterns. Habitual patterns. So deeply ingrained patterns, deeply ingrained habits are hard to break. And a setback can trigger us. They can trigger that behavior. And so now we've fallen back into that pattern. And we might fall back into unhealthy routines that are comfortable but counterproductive. Whoa, 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 whoa. Did you hear that? We become comfortable because we're used to that. Even though it was counterproductive, it was our norm. It was our go-to. It was the thing that we did. So those patterns, those habits, they feel comfortable. It's kind of like that path that's worn through the grass, right in the yard. You just fall into it. You drop a ball and the ball goes right into that path. It's comfortable. And so people have these patterns that they've fallen into, and when they fall off track, then guess what? There it is. And then stress can be overwhelming. The things that come at us. In one of our shows, I think it was yesterday, we were doing a check-in, and I was saying that if one thing comes, then we can handle that. If two things come, we can handle it. But when a bunch of things come at the same time, life stressors like work and relationships or health issues, they can be difficult to handle, difficult to manage, difficult to prioritize getting back on track when I'm just keeping my head above water, when I'm just treading water. When stress is high, it's easy to let healthy habits go. And so people don't get back on track for lots of those reasons. What's your reason for not getting back on track. We'll come back. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. While we'll come back and we'll flesh that out. But let's go ahead and let's take a look at what is going on with my report. Let's see. Let's do this one. Here we go. And so you'll see there that is my Dexcom Clarity report. And let's see, I do have my mouse on. So you see that my average blood sugar is 155, and I'm in target, according to this, 73% of the time. If I change and go to my 90-day, we'll see how that comes up in just a minute. All right, so, okay, there we go. So 128 is my 90-day average. You see that I'm in target 87% of the time. My glucose management indicator, which is a surrogate for my A1C, is 6.4. So what that says is if I were to get an A1C right now, then my A1C should approximate 6.4. And then let's take a look at the actual numbers for the different days. And let's back up. And so this is, right, so we started fasting right in here, actually. Remember, this was the night that we went and we had a baseball game that we went to with my team and my son and all of those. And so we came home late and I started fasting. And so 24 hours was last night. So right around here. And then tonight, 48 hours, right? We haven't quite gotten there yet, right? But at this moment, so I got another couple of hours before I get to 48. And right now, actually less than a couple of hours, hour plus, my blood sugar is 98. Okay, notice the progression, right? So over here, we were high, right? And that's all the food that we ate. I won't tell you. I think did I show you? I thought I showed you guys what I ate. Let me pull that picture up again, if I can find it. And we went to a taco place, and I was like, okay, this is healthy stuff that I'm gonna eat. Okay, there it is. Yeah, let's do that. All right. So that's what I ate, and it is a taco. It's a bowl. It's not a taco bowl, right? So there was a little bit of rice in there. We've got some steak, some chicken, and then all the rest of that is there's cheese, obviously, and there's avocado, and the rest of it is vegetables. Those are vegetables, and so that's what resulted in these blood sugars that you're seeing right here. Okay, so we're in the 190s. And then we drop down to the 1-teens at 24 hours. And then 48 hours, or closing in on 48 hours, we're 98. Okay, you guys see that? All right. So that's where we are. So what do you think, and once again, if you're out there, what do you think my ketones are going to be? I haven't shown you ketones yet, but what do you think those are going to be when we finally take a look at them? And I haven't seen it yet, right? So I haven't seen it yet. So go ahead and drop it in the comments. What do you think? What do you think the ketones are going to be? All right. So let's hop back over and let's have a conversation. Right. So remember the very first one that we talked about in terms of how people don't get back on track is they don't get back on track because they have a perfectionist mindset. And this one actually comes from, I should say that it comes from, but in order to overcome that, we got to figure out where it comes from. So embracing the concept of progress over perfection, right? Set realistic, flexible goals that allow for room for mistakes. You want to remind yourself that imperfection is a part of the learning process. See it as a challenge, something place to learn, and not as an obstacle to be avoided. And then focus on continuous improvement rather than on flawless execution. Notice that continuous improvement rather than flawless execution. That's where we want to be, right? So people feel like they have to be perfect. Guilt and shame is the other one. So how do we overcome that? Well, we want to separate our actions from our identity. Often guilt and shame are related to what we see and think about ourselves. But our behavior is not our identity. You want to recognize that you can make a mistake and it doesn't define who you are as a person. In fact, this whole idea of metabolic disease is a shaming process. It is a process, I should say it's a shaming process. It's a place where a lot of people feel shame. I know I did. Because if I was strong enough, if I was good enough, if I didn't use buffering behavior, then I wouldn't be in this situation. Notice what happened, right? So there's the shame. So you want to practice forgiveness by acknowledging that the setbacks are going to happen. And then focus on what you can do to move forward. It's happened. It's done. Nothing I can do about it. But what can I do moving forward? And talking to friends, talking to advisors, talking to a coach, talking to a therapist, all of that helps us to unravel some of those things that are in our mind, right? So guilt and shame. Separate yourself from your behavior. The next one is that people fear failure. They have a fear of failure. They have done it in the past. They could see themselves failing again, and they're like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. So reframe failure as a learning exercise by analyzing what went well and what went wrong. So this is actually a new thing. I shouldn't say new, but this is a process that I've just incorporated into a lot of things I do. For example, we went camping. I think I mentioned that to you guys several weeks ago, and I was in charge of a couple of teams. And normally when we have those meetings, those debrief meetings, I would show up at the meeting and say, okay, guys, let's go ahead and let's talk about the trip and let's tell me what are the things that we could do better. And so I changed that. So now when I show up, I'm like, okay, tell me some things that we succeeded at. Let's start there. What went well? And what can we do differently? So that's the second question. What went well? So we talk about what went well, how we worked together, how we did this, and how we planned for this, and it executed the way we thought it was going to go. So what went well? And what can we do differently next time? Notice the words I'm using. And set incremental goals to gradually build confidence. Visualize the techniques that you're going to use. Visualization is a technique itself that you can use to see the success of where you're going. Rehearsing the outcomes in your mind. Yeah? Okay. Fear of failure. And then lack of a clear plan. Lack of a clear plan. Now this one, as I mentioned before, learning to set goals, develop a step-by-step practice, a step-by-step action plan that outlines specific, achievable goals that you can then monitor. Are they measurable? And as you reach them, hey, let's celebrate, right? Use tools like calendars, to-do lists, goal-setting apps. Right? Go ahead and watch one of the shows that we did on how to set smart goals on our channel. So have a plan. Those who fail to plan to fail. Have a plan that's going to take you where you need to go. Okay? Negative self-talk. Negative self-talk. This is a huge one. This is a big one. Negative self-talk. I can't tell you the number of places where we don't succeed because not other people or other circumstances or things outside of us have derailed us, but we in our heads have derailed ourselves. Often I talk about the inner coach and the inner critic, right? So those two guys that sit on the shoulders, the inner coach and the inner critic. And the inner critic is very quick to pick up on the things that we didn't do well, and it keeps track of that. But we never strengthen the inner coach by practicing self-compassion, by challenging negative thoughts and replacing them with positive thoughts, by not creating a mantra, not creating a space or a routine for ourselves in the morning. All of those things strengthen the inner coach, because the critic's gonna find stuff anyway, and the critic remembers the negative. It remembers where we didn't succeed, but we don't always remember this. So that's why journaling, for example, is so good. I journal on my phone. I've got an app called Day One that I go in and I put stuff in, and I've showed that to you guys before. But yeah, rather than constantly feeding the critic, let's begin feeding the coach. Those times when we succeed, write it down. Gather information that will help you in your growth. Keep a journal where you are writing down on a daily basis the positive things that are going on. Because guess what? You're not going to be able to remember all of them, but you will remember all the negative. But it allows you to get a balanced perspective. Okay. The other thing was we lose momentum, right? Reason people don't get back on track, losing momentum. So break your goals down into smaller chunks, right? That's what we call it, chunking, right? More manageable steps, and begin doing those small steps. So don't think of where you were when you got off track. Think of, okay, what is a small step that I can do right now? I'll tell you, this was a struggle for me sometimes, right? Particularly if I've been off my eating plan, I've been doing some stuff, all of the things that we talk about, right? When you get derailed, and I've mentioned particularly as I end my fast, if I'm not careful, okay, I'm going down, so it's now a day later, and I think, oh my God, now I've got to get back. And I think about the entire process. No, don't think about it. Right now, make this decision right now that the thing that I'm about to eat, I'm not going to eat it. That's it. I don't have to think about the next step. Just make this decision right now. Start with one small, achievable task and gradually increase your efforts. Celebrate small wins. And that will help keep your motivation high, and the momentum will build. Okay. The other one is unrealistic expectations. So we have these unrealistic expectations. And so reevaluate our goals. Reevaluate your goals and ensure that they are realistic, that they are attainable. Once again, use the SMART acronym. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Set those goals as a way to challenge yourself, but they're achievable. Adjust your expectations to focus on gradually moving into sustainable goals and sustainable processes. Okay? Don't be unrealistic. Lack of support. Yeah. I can't speak enough about this. Build a support system. Here on the channel, that's what we do. Network by connecting with like-minded people, people who are in the space where you want to be, people who are in those same thoughts, people who are trying to be healthy, people who are trying to fast, people who are trying to reverse diabetes, people who are trying to improve their metabolic health. Social media, support groups, in-person communities. Look for accountability partners. Look for a mentor. You become a mentor to someone, right? Who can give you encouragement, who can give you guidance, who you can guide. Don't hesitate to reach out here on the channel. If you need someone to come alongside you, go to our website. Talk to family, talk to friends. But you can do it. And then habitual patterns, right? So these patterns that we've developed, these routines that are part of us, right? So we want to identify triggers that lead us to falling back into old patterns, into old habits. Begin developing, create new, healthier routines. I said to my wife just this morning, I was leaving the house. And I had brought some stuff from work, and it was in the refrigerator, right? Contraband, as we call it. And I said to her this morning, I threw it away. I took it, trash went out, we threw it this morning. And she said, why did you throw it away? I said, because of the heat model. Access, habits, emotions, access, and taste. So it's so much easier to fall into a habit, into a pattern, if it's there. So I had to begin building healthier new patterns that I can now focus on, replacing some of those old patterns. You would use habit stacking, right? And these are all things that we probably need to come back and do a show about, right? Painting a new habit or pairing a new habit with an existing one so that the habit becomes easier to do. It establishes a new behavior. Regularly review and adjust your habits to make sure that they are still aligned with your goals. Okay? So habitual patterns, we tend to fall back on those. And then we get overwhelmed. Yeah, we can become overwhelmed because there's so much that's going on in our life. So in order for this to work, you've got to begin implementing stress management techniques and procedures. Not when you get off track, but prior to getting off track. Learning how to do deep breathing exercises, regular physical activity, prioritize self-care, get good sleep, stay hydrated, practice relaxation techniques to decompress. Because remember, that roller coaster of emotions that we've talked about, as that roller coaster gets higher and higher, it's harder and harder up on top here to deal with it. Because once that roller coaster gets to the top, guess what? Just like on the real roller coaster, the car's coming down the other side. And it's going to be hard on this side to stop it. It's much simpler, much easier, much more manageable to do that over on this side. So if stress is a major barrier, consider getting support. See a counselor. Get a coach. Talk to a pastor. Right? So don't just sit in that space by yourself. So these are reasons why people don't get back on track and some things that you can do to overcome that. But one of the biggest reasons that we don't get back on track is because we never intended, we never planned, we never thought that we were going to get off track in the first place. We didn't expect it. And so because we didn't expect it, we didn't plan for it. And just like I said before, if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. So you are going to get off track. I am going to get off track. Something is going to happen somewhere, somehow, sometime that's going to take us off of our plan. And what we've got to do is we've got to expect that it's going to happen. And these are some ways to be able to get in there and say, okay, no, I'm getting back on track. I know where I need to be, and overcoming some of these resistance or these places where people fall down. You can do it. You have unlimited potential, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But right now, let's go ahead and let's take a look at my ketones. What did you think my ketones were going to be? Did you guys put that in there? Put that in the chat? So let's hop over here. I've got my Keto Mojo app on, and let's get my Keto Mojo meter. I'm going to need to turn that on. There we go. And then we should see that start to sync here in just a minute. Boom. See that syncing, coming up, scanning, and so we've grabbed it. So what do you think it's going to be? What do you think it's going to be? So 48 hours, right? At the time we did it was 46 hours. So let's see. All right, so blood sugar of 83 and ketones of 0.9. Ketones of 0.9. And so remember, when we talk about ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 are considered nutritional ketosis. And then above 1.5 is considered therapeutic ketosis. So right now I'm in nutritional ketosis. And we want, if we're going to do fat burning, if we're going to do, I don't say if we're going to do metabolic health, but if we are fasting, we want fat burning, we want ketones, then we want ketones that are above 0.5. Okay, so that's where we typically want you to be. Awesome. All right. Now, I mentioned before, as we were coming out of our discussion, on the unlimited potential that you have. I share with one of our team members at work that within you, and I'm saying this to you right now, within you, there's the potential to chart your destiny with respect to your health. That's right. You have unlimited ability. I don't care what's happened in the past. You've made some decisions. You have some consequences from those decisions. But that is the past. Right now, we can make decisions to go into the future, and we can make decisions that set us up for success. And that happens with our Triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the shows that we do and the blogs and the podcasts. That's the point of those, is to help with a mindset shift, a frame shift, if you will. And then we empower with the tools that we learn. All the things that you're hearing are tools when we do the challenges, when we do these check-ins, right? These tools that we're learning on how to be successful, how to put into practice the things that we're learning. And then we encourage with the community that you are part of, that you are helping to build. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. And remember, this was a great conversation to talk about the HEAT model. Habits, emotions, access, and taste. Those things that push us in a direction that we don't want to go. Habits are the things that derail us. Those patterns, those routines that we fall into, not because we're hungry, but because it's just the time. We eat because it's time to go to the movies. We eat because a friend came over. We eat because, right? And so all those things, yeah, a problem. We eat because of emotions. We just talked about that. Those emotions, when they get high, when they get high, it's tough to overcome them. We eat because of access. Things are just around us. And we don't eat because we're hungry. We eat because we see it. And then we eat because of taste. The bliss point, which is the perfect combination of fat, sugar, and salt. When you eat it, you can't just have one. You want to go back and have some more. But remember in the process that we're not chasing the food. We're chasing what the food does for us. The calm that it brings, that emotional release that it gives, that taste that reminds us of that place that we went when we ate that thing and we felt that way. So we eat because of habits, emotions, access, and taste. And our call to action is this. Come join the challenges. Every month we do a challenge. Don't let the challenge go by. Join the community. Don't let these videos be just things, or these episodes just be things that are on the shelf that you listen to. But get engaged. They're helping you to put into practice the things that we're learning. Tell your story. When you show up, claim your seat. Say, hey, I'm here. I'm fasting. I've had this success. I've had this improvement. My A1C is down. My weight's gone down. I'm off of this medication. My heart doctor, my neurologist, whichever doctor is saying, hey, things are improving. Tell us the story. Because when we hear that, we know we can succeed as well. And when you're having challenges, let us know. Because when we see that, we can rally around you, help to support you, so that you and we and us, we know that we're not by ourselves. And then invite someone. Send them a link. Let them know that there is some metabolic health going on, that they have the ability, there's the resources, there are the tools that are available to help them be successful in their metabolic future. And then remember our pillars for reversing diabetes. Number 1, decrease insulin. Number 2, suppress the appetite. And number 3, reduce sugar. So we're in the process right now of going through the third pillar, which is reducing sugar. And if you've not watched our show from last week, go ahead and make sure you watch that. We're in the third pillar, and we've had actually 2 episodes or 3 episodes now in that process. Make sure that you are joining us for all of that. Hey, I'm excited to be here always with you. As I always say, I love this community. I love the successes that you're having. I love being in this space and sharing and learning with you as we move through this process together. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. Hey, we will see you at our check-in tomorrow, right? We will see you for this week in review on Sunday morning at 6 o'clock, and then we'll see you on the show on Monday. Remember, we're going to be away, but we're going to have a special episode for you. Make sure you join us. Good night, everybody.